I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good. Hello, welcome everybody to Harry Potter Stream Part 2. Are you having a great weekend? Is it warm where you are? I'm wearing 2 pairs of socks. One ordinary pair of socks and then what I like to call Uber socks because, well, calling them fuzzy socks or just thick toggle socks. Just, oh my goodness, thank you for the bits. Sushi will put those in the ratty bank. We are very grateful. I didn't quite see your name because I'm a bit too far away. I'm just catching up on my phone so I can see what you're saying.
Matt Long.
Matt Long, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Nice of you to join us.
Random streamers. Oh, thank you.
We're very grateful. It's not actually my stream. I'm the guest streamer today. Misha, aka Amusing Hats, is just hiding off stream. There she is. Hello, hello. Akio, Misha. Okay, well, you've come to listen to my experience on the set of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. So let's just briefly recap what it was that you missed last time. If you haven't seen it, it is up on YouTube. If you go to the Amazing Hats UK YouTube channel.
Stream views are loud. You might have to move your phone away.
How's that?
Further away.
Okay. Apologies for the bees.
Is that better?
Yeah.
There it goes. Further away.
We're very grateful. Sushi loves those bits. Okay, now don't forget, this is a colour along stream. So in our Discord, and also if you do the command colour, so exclamation mark colour with a U because we're English.
I did both.
Oh, and American for those Americans among you, or Canadians, eh? Mm-hmm. Then, hello, Pizzazz.
Are stream views better?
Grandma's lunch. Is Grandma's lunch going to be watching? I think Grandma should watch. I think Grandma would have a great time. Also, hello, Alison. Grateful that you're here. But yes, don't forget, if you download the page, you can show us in Discord as you're going along throughout the stream. I'm going to talk for a bit. Please feel free to ask questions because I kind of want you to make sure that you're like, what? What did he say? Wait a minute. Was this as awesome as I thought it was? Ask questions. Akio questions. Okay.
I'm just going to be here.
Misha's going to be colouring. Nisha's going to join us when she's done some Sims.
I will. I'll pull up any photos as needed.
Yes. So, to just remind everybody, yes, the crochet animals. Misha is the creative person here.
So normally when I do stream, this is what I actually do.
Hang on.
I crochet brats, dragons, unicorns, hats. So yeah, when I'll probably be doing some actually in about an hour and a half or so. But yes, this is what the normal stream usually is. Thank you, Matt. Sorry.
My bad, guys. I need to work on my levitation with microphones.
Thank you.
Okay, so Pizzazz, it is very uncomfortable lunch with my grandma's high school friend. Oh, okay. No idea why we're all being forced to go. I'd much rather be here, but it's better to go today than deal with it for months, years, for not going. Yeah, I know exactly how you feel, because today my sister and her family were moving house, and I was like, I need to make sure that I go and help. So I did earlier in the week, so that they don't bring it up in years to come. So, me, she says.
Oh, sorry, your head's cut off.
Well, it's okay. I mean, it depends if you want to see me, if you want to see Misha's colouring as she gets into it. I'd be interested to see what colour variations we have going on this time around. Last time around we had a witch.
Last time's colouring was great, guys.
We had some pretty some people actually like photoshopped it and took the background out and did all sorts of crazy things. Interested to see what you're going to do today.
Don't know,
Heather, you froze. I thought America was like a hot place to live. I thought you just moved house.
Colorado.
Rach, maybe they're going to tell you they're getting married. Your grandma and her friend are getting married? Let us know about that one. So just to recap, so basically I went to go work on Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. They were filming parts 1 and 2 concurrently at the same time, kind of like they do for like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. But at the moment, I'm not working there. I'm a guest. I'm holding in my hand the card from the charity The Willow Foundation, which says, "We hope you had a very special day this was the card they sent me after I'd been down to set. So essentially, I was a film student, if you remember, and during my second year at university, I contracted cancer. But don't worry, it's all fine. I'm all good. I've just lost, a bit of, hairline here. And Heather, hardy har. Actually, we were just watching Pirates, like the art and animation film Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists. So we're feeling a bit piratey. Pizzazz, I doubt it. His wife just passed a month or so ago, but no idea. You never know. Maybe they're gonna give you some early Christmas presents. It's a thought. But essentially, I had been wanting to go on a film studio tour trip, and we couldn't make it happen as university. So as my make-a-wish, I was like, I want to go to a film studio, but they don't do tours. And so the charity were like, pick something else. I did. 6 months later, they're like, hey, we're taking you into Harry Potter as the one exception for the year. And I was like, oh. And so I couldn't tell anybody at all. I told my mum because I had to tell her I was going away for a day and the next day. And I told my brother-in-law, Matt, who, Misha, if I could ask you to bring up the picture of Matt and I. Misha is going to be my assistant, my lovely assistant today. Do forgive the parallax effect. The picture of Matt and I in, not Gringotts, the Great Hall.
Oh,
Please.
Great Hall.
Just to the left of that. No, in between there. Image 0003.
Got it.
So this is me and Matt. Now, you might be able to tell that we're having a jolly good time because he's a huge Potterhead and was for a few years because of my little sister, the same one who moved house today. So essentially, this was me and Matt. He came down as my responsible adult, as you might remember. So, essentially what you've missed if you can't remember part one, or if you haven't watched part one yet, we went down, we stayed in a nice hotel. I'd never stayed in a hotel before, just travel lodges. Then the next morning, we turned up at the wrong place. The charity had given us the postcode for the postal box, as opposed to the actual studio. And my brother-in-law, Matt here, who you can see, who has actually been on stream before as Copper Top. If you ever see him, say hello. And he was my responsible adult, even though by this point I had been declared all clear. So here we are on the set. I'm going to leave that picture up just for a minute or two. Now don't forget to ask questions, because I'm quite fine to jump around and ask questions, answer your questions rather. Maybe I'll ask you some questions as well. So what we'd done, we turned up, we'd met the producer's assistant, whose name was Angie. She was taking us around, confiscating our cameras, but letting us take pictures. She would take these pictures actually for us so that she knew. What's the matter? You look like you're worried.
Oh,
It's showing the notifications.
no, it's showing this. Anyway, you keep going.
Misha's just looking a bit concerned. You could take it full screen if you like.
No, it's just this bit. I'm just going to change this. Anyway, keep going.
She's going to keep going. Okay. So, how many people we got watching at the moment? Oh, hello, 17 people. So we'd gone round. I'd told them in advance that, hey, I'm a film student, so they knew in advance that I was a film student, and so I wasn't like, say, their family members, or a politician, or the Prince Harry. Welcome back, Alison. Welcome back. Hope you're feeling better, by the way. So we'd been to her desk. We'd got our little passes for the day, and I've been recognising things around, like, oh, that's so-and-so space in the car park, and that's so-and-so space in the car park. And we'd been round to the storyboard artist, we'd been round to the art department, the graphics department, so I'd held a Marauder's map, like the actual real thing, the Daily Prophet, the Quibbler, with complete cutouts, like blue screen cutouts, where they would superimpose like the animated pictures in post-production. So we'd already seen all of this, so go back to part one if you weren't aware of it. So where we'd left off, I believe, was more around the time that Angie had just taken a phone call on her iPhone back in the day when iPhones were quite rare. So it was a big deal, so I was like, oh, she has an iPhone. From production designer Stuart Craig, and we'd gone down to the warehouse. So, Misha, if you can just switch back to the camera for a moment, please. I'm going to have Misha bring back up the camera. Oh, Pizzazz, have a great time. Hope it actually works out quite nicely. And hello for later. Welcome back, Pizzazz. Welcome back. Hope you had a great lunch. Tell us all about it. So, Misha, if you just hold this up a bit closer to the camera, please. so it's full frame. Yes, so what you're looking at here is the site entrance map. So you can see that it is quite a collection of different buildings. It wasn't purposely designed as a film studio, but you can see that the green line was just how far you had to come into the complex just to park. And so essentially what our tour did was take us around almost all the complex. So the shooting stages you can see are the larger buildings roughly in the centre, and then Twitch has been such a pain today. I'm sorry to hear that. But towards the top of the screen, you can see that we have like the makeup department, which we get to a bit later, with the metal shop. Over to the right hand side, we had the London set, the rigging yard, the container city, which we didn't really go to. But we went into sort of like the main stages, and all the buildings, the smaller rooms in the middle were essentially the warehouse space. So this is where they'd store all the Ford Anglias, the Christmas decorations, everything from all the other movies that were props, whereas all the set pieces, like, I don't know, the boys' bedroom, for example, they'd store in huge black sheets out on the runway. Okay, thank you, you can put that down now.
Doodles wants to see your wand.
You want to show? Oh, hello, Doodles. Didn't see you come in. Yes, this is the wand. What would you say it's made out of, dear? Dragon heart, string in the middle. Doodles, I heard you weren't feeling so good, so I hope you are feeling better. Chocolate usually works. In fact, don't forget to have a hot chocolate. We do encourage hot chocolate on this stream. Misha's going to be getting me some later. And I come prepared with water because I dried up a bit last time. My brother-in-law really wanted a wand. We kind of both really wanted a wand before we went down. We were like, could we get a wand? Like, I really wanted to be an extra for like a scene, and because he was ginger, or redhead for you non-British folk, he would have been a perfect Weasley, member of the family. And they were having the wedding scene. If you can't remember the book or the film, they have a wedding for the Weasleys at some point. So we didn't get to be an extra. Just to spoil it now, we didn't get to be extras. But I'm going to just discuss the scene that they were shooting and show you a couple of pictures for some of what we're seeing. But anyway, the warehouse space. So we went down to the warehouse. So I had briefly discussed that we had 3 Ford Anglias just up on some big shelf previously, and they had Christmas decorations. So whenever you see that they've decorated Hogwarts, like for example the Yule Ball, for example, they completely decked out the entire Great Hall in kind of like an aluminium reflective thing. They just kind of coated it over the existing set. You can see that in some of the DVD extras. Hello, Ginger there as well. Interesting. Because I remember that Tom Felton on the DVDs discusses that a lot of people don't know what gingers necessarily are. Or maybe they popularised it since Ron made it a thing. I'm not ginger. I think ginger people are really cool. Especially if they have freckles as well, because that's like even more cool. It's like the ultimate nerd. Like at least the nerd look, at least anyway. So I was just like going around the warehouse, just going, like all these things just on display. I mean, think going to Costco. If you've not been to Costco, think of a large, basically like supersized warehouse. Think Walmart, but instead of like sort of head height things, we're talking, like mesh fences. Like sort of like mesh fences that spies have to break through with pliers. Think like that. And you were kind of walking down like something that you could fit maybe 2 small cars, not like trucks or anything, because you'd have golf buggies that would come past sort of thing, or forklift trucks that could lift things up. It was that kind of warehouse space. And you're just looking at things and you're like, oh, there's the Mirror of Erised just chilling right next to the fence here, or the separate. It wasn't quite, it was a interior fence, is that what you call it, interior fence? IKEA, Costco, Sam's Club, all of those are huge. This was huge. I mean, I'm not saying it was like as big in terms of width, but in terms of just how much stuff there is in one open space. It was pretty crazy. Also, if you've joined us since starting, don't forget to download and print or digitally colour in your colouring page for free. This is from which colouring book is this from?
This is from the second colouring book.
Which was called?
Which was called Dragon Holidays.
Dragon Holidays and Celebrations. Nisha's just joining us. We went on an English Heritage tour. So the English Heritage is basically a organisation that preserves monuments, ruins, and castles. So we went to 4 of those places today.
We'll post them on Discord for you to see.
So I was actually thinking about Harry Potter a lot because one of the places we went to, one of the last places we went to, was in Abbey, and it talked about how like the main hall where they were eating, they'd eat in silence, but you could see below the eating, like because the floor had basically gone, you could see that there was two levels, and below was where they'd prepare everything. And if you've read Harry Potter, you'll know that there was a scene that didn't feature in the movies, where the elves basically prepare everything in replicas of the Great Hall layout, so that when Dumbledore goes, "Let the feast begin," it all basically teleports from those positions upwards, and it's actually a real thing. Like not magic, sorry, but the actual idea of having a hall beneath the hall where you prepare things. It's actually a real thing. It's actually how English people did it back in the day. What century was that, Abby? Sort of like 16th century, 15th century, or even 13th century onwards.
Yeah,
It was like over hundreds of years that it was there.
Yeah.
But it seems that J.K. Rowling's actually quite well versed in her history, because that's the thing. And if you walk around any castle, particularly an English castle, of course, then you're just going to see, oh, this really looks like Hogwarts, because the production designer realised that the only architecture of its day, because Hogwarts is supposedly designed 1,000 years ago, would have been architecture of castles and cathedrals. Hence why Hogwarts looks all kind of stony and that sort of thing, because I don't really remember much description of that. But anyway, we're going around and seeing all these props, and I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. Just going up and actually seeing the Mirror of Erised, which, come to think of it, I didn't see myself desiring anything in it. Maybe I was just too star-eyed, going bling, 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 bling. I'd like to do something in there. Let me shuffle over so you can see stuff there. So, let's have a look. Hogwarts statues. Misha, I have a picture of Hogwarts statues. Well, actually, these are the chess pieces, but it's more or less the same thing. So, Misha's just going to switch. I believe it should be in the miscellaneous photos, bottom right, image 0135. Yep. So as we were going around, statues of this size, which I'd say are probably, if you ignore the base, they're probably, about 6 foot in height. Did you see your desire to see the Harry Potter set? Oh my goodness, did I desire to see the Harry Potter set? Yes, I did. And I did get my desire. I saw many sets, not all of them. There was one set I didn't actually get to see until after this trip, and that was the full Diagon Alley experience. So a little later, we're going to get to when I did go to see the part of Diagon Alley. So, Nisha, what colours do you think you're going to go with today?
Ooh, I'm not sure.
Are you going to go with an orange pumpkin? Or are you going to
Yes.
go like, oh, you are? You're not going to rock the boat on that one? This is the thing, through the warehouse, you just see random Hogwarts statues. If you remember, there's the one of one of the designers holding the Hogwarts in his hand, almost like a silver platter, like a waiter. Just things like that, just hanging around right up next to this little interior fence. Duddle says, those are the chess pieces from their first movie house. Yeah, that's the thing. They were still around, and later in my visit, we got to go to the Room of Requirement, where in the Deathly Hallows, you recall that there's a big broomstick chase, and one of Malfoy's goons manages to set it on fire accidentally. They threw basically all sorts of props they had laying around, such as the chess pieces. Specifically, I remembered, I think, seeing the Queen, possibly the King, just like hanging around. And I'm sure if you actually freeze frame some of the wide shots in the DVD, you can see the chess pieces and some other goodies from previous movies. It's just kind of like the cupboard under the stairs, you just kind of throw all these stuff. That's basically what they did. They already had all this stuff made. They didn't have to make much. They just brought in loads more furniture, like tables and tables and tables, and chairs. They just stacked hundreds of chairs on top of each other. Going around seeing these things, it was just like a trivia game. It's like, oh, that's from this movie, that's from this movie. And there's the boat from the Half-Blood Prince where Harry and Dumbledore go across. And here's the thing. Why did Harry and Dumbledore apparate outside and then end up taking a boat across? Why not apparate once they'd sort of cast the flare across to the middle? Why did they not apparate on the island? I don't remember the book explaining why they couldn't. I assume there's some logical explanation, so if somebody could let me know on a postcard, send it by owl, I'd love to know. I'm just going to have a quick sip. Ah, that's good brew. Butterbeer. Okay, what else did I see? Let's have a look here. Just reviewing my notes here. Okay, so we basically walked the length of this concrete floor space where they'd been it would have been an extra set, but they'd probably been using it for storage for some years. You get to the end of this alleyway, oh hello Doodles, we'll have to have a closer look at those. I think that they weren't able to apparate onto the island because it was protected from the magic that was protecting the Horcrux. See, that's what I kind of assumed, but, you know, could they not levitate? Surely somebody's mastered the art of levitation if they can apparate and if they can make other objects float. Perhaps Dumbledore could have been, well, Wingardium Leviosa to Harry and, like, projected him sort of with his wand across the space. Just thinking outside the box, you know? Just saying. So we get to the other end of this the warehouse space. We come basically to a classic film door, double door. There's a guy, basically a guard almost, except he's not a bouncer, sort of dressed like a bouncer or anything. And he's not letting anybody in until the red light goes off, and which means they've stopped filming. So eventually the light went off, and we went in. Now, inside this particular warehouse space, which I'm going to say was probably stage A, so it was the northern end of the complex. If you remember the map I saw, it was on the top end of the map. We go in, and there was the scene from the Deathly Hallows Part 1 where everybody has taken the Apologies Potion.
Next time I should, for the next streams, if you're still using that, I can take a picture of that and do a command map, and then people can have the map up.
That's true. Although I thought we posted it in Discord, or did we not put it in Discord? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. If you just want to bring that up for a second. Okay.
Stage A is right here.
Stage A is right. They've just been zooming a bit for people on smaller devices. There it is. Okay. So we'd walk down. See where car park 2 is at the bottom. Just okay. So we'd basically walked the length of. If you move your mouse up a little bit and see where G is. G and F. Go left to that corridor. Left. Move your mouse. Move your actual mouse, dear. Okay. And up that corridor. That's basically where they'd been walking through all that sort of corridor space. And then we got to stage A at the top. So I believe that's where they were filming the set with the small rig. Oh, hello, Lita. Nice of you to pop in and shout hello. It was enchanted by Voldemort so that you couldn't apparate to protect his Horcrux. Now, here's a thought. Why not bury it in the ground, like solid ground, as opposed to a cave where people can walk about? Why not put it like in a hole, like 100 meters down, where you definitely can't apparate or appear? Again, just extra protective measures, you know? Why not have, like, you know, I don't know, how about a Wi-Fi alarm? You know, lasers, you know, there are modern inventions that he could have also, you know, if he was really serious about protecting his life. Just saying. And what do you all think about, has everybody seen the new Fantastic Beasts trailer? And like the one that came out like a week ago, and everybody's going nuts about... I'm forgetting people's names. The snake. Nagini. Did everybody see that trailer? Because I'm about to reveal a spoiler if you haven't. If you haven't, say so and I won't say it. Lita, the only way to the island was the boat that was enchanted to be hidden, and Dumbledore was clever enough to see the enchantment. Apparently Voldemort wasn't that smart. Yeah, he strikes me as cunning, but perhaps not prudent or wise. I mean, hey, he went after the Elder Wand as opposed to, say, a loving family relationship. So that was his fault. Anyway, inside was the set. So the set was essentially the exterior of Gringotts. Excuse me. The little alley off the edge of Diagon Alley, and a shop or two that you don't really see from the camera angle. Misha, if you could switch the map away and bring up the picture of image 0007, the interior of me, Matt, Daniel, and Angie. So this is part of the set that you can see. I believe we might have showed this on the previous stream, but this is the moment in question. Okay, Lita, you're so excited about that Nagini. Apparently J.K. Rowling says that she's been keeping that secret for about 20-something years. Although, I guess we'd have to reread the books to sort of see if she sort of gave us any hints. Like, we do know that they milked Nagini to keep Voldemort alive. Does that add a new dimension to everything, knowing that she was a person? So anyways, this is the set. This was the set that was being filmed. Now what really struck me about this set was the level of detail. Now this was by some standards, a small set, and you can see it's actually not a complete set. Like if you push the camera around between my head and the third person from the left, and Angie, the assistant, holding all the paraphernalia and phones and stuff, you can see the studio wall, which was cladding for sound protection, maybe fire retardant as well. But you can see that the pillars of Gringotts are covered in wanted, undesirable number 1 posters, for example. You can see that the cobbles are all individually shaped. You can see that the pillars are wonky, that you can see that the alleyway that goes down is dark. It's kind of got if you've ever been down a dark old brick alleyway, there's stuff leaking through the walls and kind of leaving trails, and you can kind of see that underneath Daniel's hands, essentially a couple trails or something, posters that have been applied and ripped off and aged, not just printed and then ripped off to make it look ripped. It's been worn and blown by the wind and the rain, and there's litter and leaves. So not just a bit of dirt. It really looks like it's an exterior, but without the trees above you and the daylight sky. It was a bit warm on that set, I have to confess, because after 20 minutes of chatting, you feel those lights beaming down. And there's loads of lights. You can't imagine just how many lights there are. But that was part of the set. But the set actually went up, I'd say, about 20 feet. So there is an angle that you can see when Harry, Ron, Grip Hook, and Hermione, but as Bellatrix, they're in another alleyway that is essentially to the 5 o'clock position of where this photographer is standing for that picture. And he's the camera is kind of looking up as this, I assume, sort of Death Eater-y type person outside the bank. I always assumed he was a Death Eater, probably wasn't. But Bellatrix is all like, "Good morning," and the man just kind of gives her a funny look, and then Grandma's like, "Good morning, good morning. What are you trying to do, woman? Order chips?" No, he didn't say that. But essentially, that's the only shot where you can really see some of the height of the set. And this is one of the things I learned about filmmaking, is that so much of the detail and the scope of it isn't really seen. You could do if I'd been allowed to, I would have taken a 360-degree panorama from all angles, when you can kind of spin it around on your device like you do on Facebook sometimes, or a VR experience, AR experience. There was all sorts of angles that you don't see that they have built, and they've paid lots of money to build it. But then, because of the way the director chooses to shoot, or the way that it would look, that you don't see the shop signs that are hanging from the opposite side of the street still, or the things that they put in the window. Nisha's American. She's asking what candy corns look like. Mm-hmm. Well, they're your candy corns. You can make them any colour you want.
Orange.
I believe they're white, orange, and yellow.
Orange, yellow, white. So orange at the bottom.
I say you make them red, green, and purple.
White, I think. Oh really?
Here's a poll for you guys. Have they ever made a different type of candy cane? Or is a candy corn? Sorry, I'm thinking Christmas. Colors? Yeah, a different shape or a different combination of colours. We don't really have candy corns for sale here, so,
I don't like candy corn very much.
So I had them, and I sort of just eat them because they're there, but I only have maybe 1 or 2, because they're basically just sugar, but with additives, and it wasn't particularly tasty. They do pumpkin candy corns, different colours and flavours for different flavours. What are the flavours? What are literally it's just almost like a no flavour for candy corns. The chat explodes because I talk about food. Isn't that ironic? They do a standard brown one. Alison, don't ask me because I'm British. That you are, my friend. Be proud. There are multiple colours of candy corn. Can somebody maybe post a picture? Because I have never, even on the internet, not that I go searching for it, seen it. Hello, Regina, sneaking for a minute, waves. Hello! Daniel Radcliffe is waving at you with his hands in this picture here. He's talking very animatedly, and everybody is hanging on every word he says. Doodles, yes, there are different coloured candy corns. I've seen them on the internet. There are even some red, white, and blue ones. I would try that one, I have to admit. Rachel says, and then sometimes they do random stuff for holidays, different shaped ones, like a candy cane candy corn. What would they call that? A candy cane candy corn? Oh, have I seen those before? I don't know. They look funny. How interesting. Yeah, Alison, I think that's my kind of reaction. I was like, this is candy, because you kind of see it on all the American imported media, like TVs and shows, and peanut butter cup candy corn. Yeah, that's interesting. Apple flavour candy. See, apple actually sounds nicer, like that sort of acidity to cancel out the sweetness. Random Easter colours. Obviously, I don't search candy canes enough. Candy corns. Gosh, I keep saying candy canes. I'll get over it. So this set, we were here for a little while, and this was a really cool part for me. So what happened is we got in here, and I'd say that there was probably about 40 people on this set. The set occupied the middle space, and there was lots of people sort of sat in chairs or next to space heaters, kind of in the darker corners. Basically, there weren't almost any lights on in the rest of the space, presumably because it would have interfered with the studio space. What comments were Alison, I imagined it would be amazing since they went on about it so much on TV and movies, etc. I was very disappointed. Yeah, that was kind of my reaction. I was like, maybe it's just one of those things where if you're brought up with it, it's like a staple. As opposed, like, I would prefer to have roses, like the chocolate roses. This is a brand, like Heroes and Celebrations, if you've heard of those. I imagined it would kind of be more flavoursome. Anyway, we're digressing. But it's interesting to know that you all have such high opinions about candies. Now, the set, I'd say, would have about, those classic film chairs, director's chairs, actor's chairs. I actually have one. I actually have a film studio chair with my name embroidered on it. Why do I have it? Because my grandma, bless her, managed to write to Pinewood Studios. Now, this was being filmed at Leavesden Studios, and just a tiny bit at Pinewood Studios. But she wrote to Pinewood Studios a bit before this trip, actually, and asked them for a spare chair, and I assume she must have had to have paid for it, but she hasn't said, and maybe the studio sent it to her for free. But they found a chair that was laying around, because apparently most people bring their own chairs, like, the big stars, like Will Smith, I presume. I mean, he actually brings like a big old trailer that expands out. But they had one laying around and sent it to me. And so there's about 10 of these chairs laying around. It was spaced out kind of. There was 2 or 3 on a front row, and then like 4 or 5 on a second row immediately behind, and the rest behind that. Does it say Ben Ben? Lisa, it does not say Ben Ben. It has my full name on it. And I wonder if there was anybody's name on it before, because it's like my name is a patch over what was there originally. So maybe it said, janitor or something before. Let's take a brief moment here. Misha, if you bring back up the camera, let's just have a quick look at how your dragons are going on. So, guys, how are your dragons? If you are colouring along, show us. Send us a picture maybe in Discord, or describe it if you don't want to show it just yet. But Misha's making some good progress with hers, and surprise, surprise, her colour dragon is her favourite colour. Can you guess what it is? Ta-da! It's a green dragon emptying an orange pumpkin. Nisha's gone for the smaller details first. She's colouring in her candies first. Actually, your candy corns look very realistic. Good job.
Thank you.
Do you like
yellow than orange?
Have you noticed that our pencils are in a London bus and Queen's Guard tin? Very nice. Oh, Zilla Ray, who was Rachel, says that she's colouring her candy also. I don't think the janitor brings his own chair. Also, they're not called janitors here. True, but I assume that the majority of people watching here are familiar with that term. No, I also don't suppose the janitor can do much cleaning sitting down anyway. Have you noticed that at church, Alison, that the cupboard is marked janitor, as opposed to caretaker, which is the normal term, or cleaner? Regina, I'd be interested to know if you have a cupboard for this kind of stuff, what badge you would want to see on your door. Alison says, did they have cookies or waffles in before? Oh, in that jar. It was actually empty. My sister bought them for Nisha, actually. I believe there was 3 of them. And Nisha, you kept sort of odds and ends and knickknacks in them. This is when you were here in 2013? 2013. So, hello, Jane. Morning, Akio Sunshine. So, let's talk more about the film set. Little gem, don't forget, if you haven't already, do command... What's the command?
Color.
Command color, with any spelling of you or not, and it will bring up the colouring page that we're working on today if you haven't already downloaded or printed it, because we want to see how creative you are. So, this was the really cool part for me. So I've arrived on set. They've just finished a take. And so there's a camera that's currently being moved, and the actors are just kind of, slumming on set for a moment. And there's, I'd say, most people not doing anything. There was maybe 10 people at most, probably less than that, actually doing something productive, like picking something up, moving some track, because they had a camera on a long crane, like a horizontal crane, so that the camera could. Because there were steps on this, it's like three steps, going up into where the main action was when Ron sort of puts the cloak of invisibility over Grip Hook. Is it just Grip? No. Who's under the Grip Hook and Harry? Yes, Grip Hook and Harry underneath the cloak. So the camera sort of pushes in gently through that scene and kind of looks up as Bellatrix says good morning, and then they pull it back for the rest of the scene, sort of thing. Harry, Lita's on the ball. By the way, that reminds me, I have bought trivia. 21 hard trivia. I looked up the very first Google result for trivia because I thought there's going to be like a good hard trivia to share. The first one was really obvious, and the first Google result, I looked at the first question, I was like, it's not a hard one, skip that. So I have brought... Here we go, 21 insanely difficult questions. And I'm going to ask them and see who knows what. So, this one's kind of an easy one to get into. So, hang on, it's jumping around on me. Click. Okay. You know Nearly Headless Nick, which is Gryffindor's ghost. But do you know his full name? His full name. And I don't just mean Sir something. I mean his full name. I'll give you a few minutes. No cheating, no looking it up. I don't want you opening your books or Googling it. If you don't know it, just say it. Okay, I'll give you a minute on that one. Okay, Lisa, no pressure here, but I'm expecting you to win with 35 out of 21. Bonus points for speed. So, anyway, back to... the set here. Okay, so Diagon Alley, 40 more people sitting around, only a small amount of people helping out. Yes, okay. So the chairs then. Now these chairs actually had a footrest. My chair that I've been given doesn't actually have a footrest. And you're quite right, Alison. It is something silly. I'd forgotten what his name was. I'll be honest. Most of these questions I didn't know, but I was like, I can sort of vaguely go, oh, yeah, I'll probably remember that if I've read it recently. I haven't read the books for years. Now these chairs had footrests, so that you kind of had to sort of get yourself up into the chair. And I'm 6'1", and I, pity people who are slightly shorter, having to get in and out of these chairs, of which there were short people on set that day. So Warwick Davis, who is in the recent film Solo, and in fact in a lot of Star Wars films since Return of the Jedi, as Warwick, the Ewok. He is, of course, not just Grip Hook, but he is also the choir master. Did you notice that they redesigned his character, Professor Flitwick, from film 1 and 2? When Prisoner of Azkaban came out, suddenly he was wearing like black clothes, and he had like a facelift, and he was wearing glasses and black hair as opposed to grey hair and all the rest of it. Alison says Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Poppington, something like that, whereas Lita does not remember it at all. But you did say, don't think Mimsy. Well, you're both kind of nearly there. It was Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington. Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington.
Very close now.
What a name. Obviously French influence. Got to be close. Yes, it was exceptionally close. Just the spelling, the pronunciation was there. Full points. 10 points to Gryffindor. Is that no? You're not a Gryffindor, are you, Alison? You're Hufflepuff. I want to say Hufflepuff. Back. Heather's back. You are now my TV. Oh, I'm on TV. Where's the edge of the TV? Try to break out of your TV. I can't hold it any longer. No, sorry, that TV. TV's too strong. Take a drink. Is John watching? Hello, brother John. Nice to see you. Okay. Let's see. Yes. I've seen that. He went from an old guy with a long nose to a younger guy with glasses. He changed. He did. It's almost like they recast him, but it's actually the same actor. But they also did that with Tom, who was the innkeeper. In the first film, he's this nice elderly gentleman, bit of a character, sort of waistcoaty type jumper character. And then in the third film, he's like a hunchback, goofball, completely different, actually younger, bald head. He's like, that sort of thing. So, one of those interesting casting decisions. They also recast the lady who played Ron's sort of girlfriend in the Half-Blood Prince in the early films. Although she didn't really have much of a role at all, it was a coloured actress, and then suddenly she became a white actress. Interesting. Let's have a look. Regina says, you're falling off my TV screen. I'm falling off? Is the TV falling? Do we need to, like, put it right? Everyone's putting us on TV, guys. Well, I guess Twitch TV is TV. Alison is semi-lurking. Semi-lurking. That was almost a Snape kind of look. One does not approve, Alison. I'm here, but I gotta fix my clay dragon I made. Some bits came off in my beak. Lavender brown. Detention. Quite right, Lisa. 10 points. Are you in Gryffindor or Slytherin? Rachel, would you like to be on my TV? If I was Snape, I'd say I don't care. But I'm not Snape, so it's really about your best viewing experience. Should I continue in Snape voice, by the way? Like Alan Rickman. Gryffindor, you are a Gryffindor. Of course you're a Gryffindor. I just felt it coming through. So anyways, this, I keep saying this is the awesome bit. It was probably the thing I really enjoyed the most. I'd always wanted to be on a film set, and this was a film set. And the funny thing was, is because it wasn't like a huge exterior film set or like a complicated thing with, like, say, the Great Hall, you know, something grand. This was only a part of the set, or they had just apparently a week or so before had the whole Diagon Alley set demolished because they'd finished filming with it, and that was down the other end of the compound, like down, just to, you don't have to see the detail, but basically we were up here in stage A, and all the way down the other end of the complex off the map, just over here, the flight shed was where they had the Diagon Alley set, so it was like a completely different part of the complex. It's actually like a half-mile walk almost, quarter-mile walk. And they just demolished it. And so, for some reason, they hadn't shot this scene over there. I don't know if it's because of they didn't build that little alleyway in that set, because that set had probably been there for years. So they'd rebuilt this little part of it, which I thought was an interesting way of doing it. And it's weird because it's very weird. It's almost like when somebody, like if you're watching us on TV, you've only ever really seen this angle. But if I was to pick up the camera and show you the rest of you, like, oh, this is completely different. This is, whoa, this is not it at all. It kind of felt like looking at the set from an exterior point of view, because you can see all like the plaster and the framework and the pipes and suitcases of camera lenses laying around and dust in chairs and lights and the cables and the tracks for the camera to roll on. And then when we step on set in a minute, suddenly all that disappears because you're going through this alleyway with like a vaulted ceiling, and you come out and you're in Diagon Alley, at least the end part of Gringotts, and you can see like the posters for Undesirable Number 1, and suddenly you're like, oh, you are on a film set, and like it kind of just came like a snap. Very weird sensation going for something you're like, this isn't a film set, that just looks like you've made like a little mock-up on your table, like with polystyrene and cardboard, and you've got Lego figures. Like it looked kind of almost too small, like it was like not a proper set until you're on it, and you're like, oh, Diagon Alley, this is Harry Potter. Anyways, Regent, you're moving way too much. I'm moving too much? Oh, for Snape, maybe. Just kidding. No, but I can't stay. You can't stay. Board game time. Or what do you plan? Let us know if you win. I hope you win. If you don't win...
She posted that a while ago. I don't think she's there anymore.
Sorry. Okay, well...
Friends are there.
If you win, when you come back and watch this, let us know if you won. And if you don't win, feed the people who did win to the dragons. Have a great evening, everyone. We'll speak to you tomorrow. Heather is Hufflepuff. Getting loud is not good for my throat. Excuse me. Lita. Oh no! Sorry, I thought I'd do a dramatic oh. So it was really cool stepping onto the set, but at this point I didn't go onto the set for a little bit. So we're kind of sat at the edge of the set, and Angie sort of had us sort of stood next to these filmmakers' chairs that we've described, and she goes over, and the director is currently like in amongst some of the crew and the actors describing how he wants the next camera setup to be, and they're kind of moving the camera around, and they're basically reconstructing this camera rig. Excuse me. Now, I recognised the director straight away because I had been watching all the DVDs of previous films, so I knew David Yates when I saw him. And this is one of the things I started to realise quite quickly walking around the sets, like all the sets, and the warehouse that we just passed through, is that everything was, because I'm quite tall, 6'1", everything else looks bigger on screen. So, for example, Daniel Radcliffe himself is, we're going to say about 5'4", 5'5". Misha, if you could bring up that classic picture of me and Daniel Radcliffe in full portrait, please. This will just illustrate to you, if you can't remember, just precisely how this thing plays out. You kind of see somebody on screen, and because you don't often see them in full frame, and often the way that they stage it is they make it look so that, you know, the framing of the shot shows them at the top, so you kind of assume that they're about your head height. Daniel Radcliffe is not my head height, even though he stood on the curb. He's not my head height. I'm 6'1". I'm too tall for him, but he was very nice. But we met him in a minute, and we're just gonna leave that picture there for a bit. So I recognise the director, and he's walking off set and towards me now at this point. Andy was trying to introduce us, but I didn't need an introduction. I was focused solely on him, so I kind of mustered some courage, went up to him and sort of shook his hand and said hello. Now, if you've seen the behind-the-scenes footage or any interviews, he's a very softly spoken kind of Englishman, almost quintessential, and you know, he's polite, wear a jacket or something. And normally, some directors, at least anyway, have a very loud, brash attitude, kind of like Quentin Tarantino. Very snarky because they have a vision and they're very driven. James Cameron, for example, his sets has lots of shouting. I'm trying to think of another one. Well, you know, you get the idea. You know, directors can be quite funny people. Who was the guy who did Transformers? Michael Bay. Michael Bay. Lots of shouting and sort of swearing and stuff like that. David Yates, not so. Okay, time for another trivia, I think. Now, I think this one's an easy one. Harry, Ron, and Hermione helped save the Sorcerer's Stone, correctly known as the follow. Yes, thank you for the follow. Very much. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Do ask questions. Remember, you can ask questions. We can jump around. Harry, Ron, and Hermione helped save the Philosopher's Stone from being stolen. But how old was its co-creator, Nicholas Flamel, when he decided to destroy it? How old was he? How old was Nicholas Flamel when he decided to destroy it? Answers in the comment section. Give you a minute for that one. So David Yates comes up, says hello. Now, Matt, our mother-in-law, is essentially shepherded to the road behind me at this point, and I'm invited to sit down with the director on his set. Excuse me. So he sits in his chair, and I sit down in the chair to his left. Now, at this point, I think I spotted the first assistant director within about a minute of me having sat down, because the first assistant director, who I believe's name was Jamie, and he's actually worked on The Last Jedi, so if you've ever seen the behind-the-scenes stuff of The Last Jedi, he's still working very hard, but he's also now an associate producer as well as being first assistant director. Now, first assistant director is the guy who really does a lot of the shouting, because the director will say, okay, for the next scene, I want to turn the camera around and we'll shoot the this angle here. And so that first assistant director will then take that. The normal director will go and sit down and think about, maybe he'll go talk with the actors. The first assistant director will then say to the teams, right, okay, guys, we're going to take a camera, spin it around, we're going to bring in the dolly, we're going to take out the track, and lighting, do this, makeup, you've got 10 minutes, whatever, So he's the guy making it happen. So he just looked kind of angry. He looked. I think I'd taken his seat, but I was told to sit there. So maybe it probably was his seat. But he's like, the look he gave me was like, who is this guy sat in my seat? Like, I don't like you. Like, you get to come and just nonchalantly take my seat, and I'm here working my butt off. Despite the fact that they'd been shooting for probably, I'm going to say several months by this point. Bearing in mind that most film productions, like, for example, the Star Wars prequel trilogy, would wrap in 30 days. Steven Spielberg could wrap maybe in 50, 60 days. Harry Potter had been shooting for months because they were doing 2 films. So they've been shooting for a long time. So he was probably quite cranky because you get very exhausted doing 1 day's worth of filming because you'd get up maybe at 6 or 7 to get to set, start shooting at about 8, and then you shoot basically until about 5, maybe 6, kind of depends on the day. Go home, have dinner, sleep, get up early again, and repeat 5 days a week. And maybe even come in on weekends because you've got meetings, planning, meeting, the studio executives or whatever. I assume at this point, because I never saw any Warner Brothers executives, that essentially the producer was left to be that liaison on behalf of the studio, because an executive producer is the person from the people who are financing the film. So Warner Brothers was financing the film to pay the production company, which was David Heyman. Now David Heyman was the person that I next met. Alison says, my fingers aren't stuck together, but how do I get it off? Get what off? Glue?
Super glue.
Super glue. Lots and lots of hot water and maybe some skin regrow juice from Madame Pomfrey. By the way, unfortunately, you're all wrong. Hermione reads out the line that says, Nicholas Flamel, who last year celebrated his 665th birthday, blah, 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 blah. So the answer was 665, because I thought it was... Close, but not close enough, because the answer was 665. Because the irony is that the year that they are reading it out loud in the library, he's 666, which is the big evil number from the Bible, which is, I think, ironic, sort of subtle. Acetone, super glue, maybe nail polish remover, maybe wolfsbane. Liz is here, quick! Grab the Liz, and run off with her. Grab the Liz. Thank you, Reparo. Of course, yeah, why don't I think of that? Streamio Reparo. Yeah, we'll have to use that next time. Also, welcome Alpaca. I didn't notice you pop in earlier. Liz, very glad you could join us. Can you hear me? Okay, next question. Who do I remind you of? What character? I know it's the wrong animal, but I don't have the right animal. So the question is, which character do I remind you of? And actually, bonus questions. What was the animal that this person was wearing on their head? And for what purpose? So, who am I? Who am I trying to be? Apart from a celebrity who isn't one. Misha's just giving me funny looks. She's like, really? What's going on right now? I am not Hedwig.
Luna Lovegood Lion Hat.
Lita, 10 points, but in order to get to cheer Gryffindor at Quidditch, I'll give you that one. 10 points to Gryffindor. Okay. This is actually quite cozy. It's actually nice. I bought this for Misha. Didn't I buy this for you?
No, I bought it.
Misha bought it for herself.
A long time ago.
Oh, I feel a bit chilly now that I've taken that off.
Right.
Very sorry about that, guys. Not sure what that was. Streamio Reparo, OBS Behavior. We even have upgraded our internet connection, so go figure.
Goodness.
Oh, Nisha has finished her dragon.
Yeah. You're quick.
Do you want to talk us through your colouring decisions there?
No. Well, I chose to go with the yellow with the green accent. And I tried to make the candy as colourful as possible so it would pop against his belly.
Oh, I see.
One
Ah,
purple.
good thinking. Very smart.
Purple.
Yes.
So now I just have to do all the candy.
Green and purple is also a nice decision.
Right. So you want to bring me the set thing back up?
Yes, please. Alpaca says scientific names are like a general name for things across all languages, like water is
Okay,
H2O.
Michelle, I'm gonna go find a caption for our photo.
Dihydrogen monoxide. Yeah,
Right here.
yes, I know that things have names, I just didn't actually know that aconite, or maybe I'd forgotten that aconite was actually like a thing. You haven't touched the dragon. You haven't touched the butt. Okay, so I believe we're now at Gryffindor 30 points. Yes, please. I would love a hot chocolate. Rachel's gone to make a hot chocolate. Yeah, sorry about that interruption. So what you're looking at is the back of the teacher's tables part of the... So if you come in the Great Hall and you look straight ahead to the teacher's table, the corridor to the left, which is I think where Snape goes out and where Mad-Eye Moody comes in, is basically this doorway that you can see to the right of the screen here. So this is the problem when you see a film set from that angle for the first time, you're like, oh, that just looks weird and cheap and flaky. But then you can see inside, it's completely believable and great. It looks fab. And so I was seeing the set of Diagon Alley and Gringotts Bank entrance like this for a while, and I was like, oh, this is weird. But I sit down next to the director, David Yates. His first assistant is giving me funny eyes. And essentially, there's 3 rows. Matt, my brother-in-law, took the back row, but he was still, loving it, freaking out. And I'm sat in front of 2 small monitors that were showing a live feed from the 2 cameras that were set up. I'd say they're probably no bigger than maybe about 15 inches in diameter, so more or less your average laptop size, but the resolution... This is the thing, some films have been using like huge 40, 60, 70 inch plasma screens before this film was made, but yet a lot of films were still using these small standard, almost old CRT TV like screens. They weren't that deep or big. Rachel. Sorry, I reloaded my app, I didn't see. What did Rachel say? You were supposed to take longer to fix it. I could fight my... Well, sorry, you didn't miss much. I'm basically just back to this picture explaining that I'm sat down looking at these 2 TV screens. We broke it and restarted, so, we gave you ample time, Well, I think so anyway. So I'm looking at these 2 screens, and I'm sat to the left of David Yates, the director, and I'm just like, oh, how awesome. Like, I didn't think I'd get to sit down next to... I thought I'd get to, sit in the same vicinity of him. So I'm me as a film fan and a Harry Potter fan... I'm just, this is like, oh, you came back without, and it's still in the microwave. Well, why didn't you take, well, if we're on TV, I guess you can't, but maybe, do you have like an iPhone or other portable device? Other brands are available, of course, with you to the microwave so you can listen or participate. So I'm watching these screens, and he's just very softly speaking to me. All this, not huge noise, but this bustle's kind of going on. No, it's fine. We're still on this. But Rachel's complaining that we didn't take as long as she needed to make a hot chocolate. Misha just laughs at you. She's making hot chocolate now, so I'm just on my own now. With you guys, keep me company, ask me questions. Maybe you have a trivia question for me, test my knowledge. I swear my Star Wars knowledge is better than my Harry Potter knowledge. I used to be a bit better with names and stuff, but I haven't read the books more than once. But I have seen the movies a couple of times. So by this point, Matt had started talking to one of the small actors by the name of Bindi. Now, I believe he's been in some other productions, I don't know what, but he was playing, and I quote from the call sheet, Tall Goblin. By that, I mean he was taller than Warwick Davis. Now, oh, sorry, yes, hello? Ooh, cookies and cream, please. I didn't know we had cookies and cream. What flavour of hot chocolate are you guys having? Like, normally, our staple hot chocolate for the past few years has actually been Swiss Miss. Whenever we go to America or have somebody come from America, we'll ask them to bring Swiss Miss hot chocolate. It's kind of nice, it's not too sweet, it's got those tiny, tiny bits of marshmallow in, which are supposed to get slightly bigger, but don't really. So, I would have Cadbury's hot chocolate, but we have Swiss Miss. Misha has her Stevens hot cocoa. She doesn't really have any of that. She got like candy cane, and I do mean candy cane, flavoured hot chocolate and peppermint. She doesn't let me have those. You like adding cinnamon honey. Cinnamon honey. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I can see that working, particularly sort of cold seasonal days like today. Or if you like that on a warm day, that's fine too. Sometimes I do have a hot chocolate in summer. So Matt's actually got a daughter who has osteogenesis imperfecta, which is a rare bone condition that affects 1 in 15,000 people in Britain. Essentially, that you can have the condition without being a dwarf, but his daughter is basically half my size, and she's 14 now, and she, is essentially small and short, and so Matt had an interesting time talking to Bindi, talking to somebody who has overcome challenges in life to work on a Harry Potter set. So he I think knew of him before Black Forest, like the cake, because that's one of my favourite cakes. Alison's having Black Forest hot chocolate. I know, right? That's like lush. Alison, you're gonna have to tell us where you got that from. Supermarkets? It's crazy. Now, the director, David Yates, had asked me what I'd seen, so I explained, and he asked me how I was enjoying it. And you try, there's that balance between deciding, do I just completely freak out, as you see some people do when they meet their celebrity, just go, oh, you're like my favourite, I idolized you growing up, I'm having the time of my life, you start crying because you just kind of let yourself go. Or do you maintain that too professional tone, we've done this, it's been really good and productive, and it's been great. So I was trying to tread that sort of polite line of, I'm really keen and interested, but I wanted to show that I was aware of film technologies and lingo, so that I could basically prove myself. I wanted a bit of validation from my director friend, my new friend. I'm not having it as my favourite. Why aren't you having it, Alison? I feel like Saturday is a good time to have your favourite things. These are one of her favourite drinks. Oh, Misha's bringing my hot chocolate. Misha's bringing my hot chocolate. Ooh, wow. Ow, that is hot.
It is hot. It's very hot.
This looks like somebody took the middles of After Eights, like the minty bit, and melted it. And mixed it with little bits. That is interesting. Cost to sell it only at Christmas. So it's not like a pack that you can get from a supermarket or even from Costa itself to take away. Interesting. Now, at about this point, David Yates, the director, turned around to the second row behind us here, and immediately behind us was the producer, David Heyman. So the production company, so whenever they make a film, they always form a new company to make a film. So, for example, Star Wars The Phantom Menace, George Lucas has his studio, Lucasfilm, which is the logo you see at the beginning, and then the production company is the legal entity that they set up to make the films, so that anybody who needs to interact with the company when the film is over, the company winds down and it's done. And also, like when on The Force Awakens Harrison Ford broke his leg, the production company is sued as opposed to Disney. Half your fingers have super glue. Yeah, Alison, I had super glue on my hands for like 3 days the last time I got it on my fingers, so hopefully you don't have yours stuck on for so long. Alpaca says, okay, perfect timing. My mum bought me hard candy frogs. That is a good day, Alpaca. That is a good day. If they're chocolate frogs, don't let them escape, though.
Do you want me to change this?
Sure. If you want to take us back to the set, please. Heather stares at hubby, hoping he'll bring her some milk chocolate. Heather, words help sometimes. How about the picture of me, Matt, and Daniel?
Again.
No, the one below it.
This one.
Yeah. Thank you. So, since we're still on set here, it's impossible to get super glue off. It's not impossible. It's exceptionally hard, though. To quote Madame Pomfrey, fixing bones is easy, but growing them back, not just bought, I forgot a letter. Brought. Ah, yes, that's true. Misha has a thing for people using correct things like bought and brought. Because my sister gets it wrong frequently, apparently. Anyway, I'll get introduced to the producer sat behind me, David Heyman. Now, he is also very British posh sounding, very eloquent, enunciates very clearly, and has an animated face when he talks, but, quietly. Grab a blanket, Liz, and have a cuddle up, snuggle up. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. David Heyman, then, he's sat there with basically what I can only describe as a bunch of paperwork, but like in a leather sort of binder, like a loose binder, so it's not like a ring binder or anything. And he's there with his pen, and he kind of looked to me like he'd probably not shaved for 5 days, maybe more longer, depending on how fast a man's beard grows. I don't really have a beard. Oh, hey, thanks, Evan. Hubby bought me some hot chocolate when you read it for me. John, you're the man. Heather loves you, and so do we. Good job. Hopefully you made one for yourself and bought some cookies. Cookies and hot chocolate go together. Just saying, She wants one. She does. She probably does. You do? Do you want one? Probably. Alpaca says, I do that grammar thing too. I'm not trying to correct people though. I twitch at them, make mistakes. See, my thing is the yaw. So there's the yaw, like you are contraction. So like you are amazing is Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. Quick grammar lesson here. Y-O-U-R, like your house. There's not, it's not, when people just say, well anyway, you get the idea, spell your words properly. Thank you, Alpaca, you spelled it out for me. Hot chocolate, pumpkin spice bagel. Well, I guess it is the season. People were saying that people go overboard on the pumpkin spice. I've never had a pumpkin spice bagel. Bard's Tale. You're playing the Bard's Tale like a game? Or like the sequence in the film? You physically twitch. Oops. Sorry. It's like Johnny English in Johnny English Reborn when they mentioned Mozambique. You're sewing whilst colouring. Crazy. Anyway, David Heyman, he was just... producers have all these paperworks and they have to make sure that it goes on time, on budget, on schedule. And they have a budget, I believe I was told, of $450 million to shoot both Deathly Hallows sequentially, sorry, not sequentially, but concurrently at the same time. That's a huge budget. Well, I mean, you can get slightly bigger budgets, but it's a big budget movie and you're doing it at the same time. The producers, though, of such big budget film, have a lot of pressure on them to make sure that it all goes... Because David Yates, I found out, wasn't working very fast. Steven Spielberg had a record 100 setups per day. So a setup is basically having the camera in one position or angle, and then when you move it, that's a different setup. Steven Spielberg usually gets through like 35 to 50 setups on a day, but he did get 100 setups on a day. David Yates gets through at 8, maybe 12 on a day. So he works a lot slower. Or is it just that he chooses to shoot less angles? You could look at it that way. But David Heyman has to make sure that he doesn't go so slow that they go over budget, because every day that you go over for another day shooting, you've got to pay the cast to come back an extra. You've got to pay the crew. You've got to pay for the materials, the lights, and lights are expensive, all these kind of costs. But he was just nonchalantly with his legs, he was kind of leaning back in his little film chair there with one leg over the other with his paperwork on his lap, just smiling like David Yates introduced me, and he's like, David Heyman was all like, oh, Ben, so pleased lovely to meet you. Like, he was just like having a ball. Like, I felt like he was almost like in his living room in pajamas sort of vibe. Not stressed at all. Or if, maybe he just had a very good poker face, but there you go. And he was just very calm, quiet, and above all, unrushed. Like, not stressed. And, they were friendly. Like, he and a lot of the studio department heads had been there for, let's face it, a decade. Not everybody had. But anyway, so I met the producer, and he was just like, fine, he was cool. He was nice. Now, I imagine perhaps on the first film, though, there was a lot more rushing about. Daniel Radcliffe did say that there was a lot more rushing about on the first film, before they knew it was going to be a hit. So anyway, the scene at hand, the scene that you're looking at here on the screen, was the trio's preamble to their entrance at Gringotts Bank with Daniel Radcliffe. Warwick Davis as Griphook. Rupert Grint was there as well as Ron, but he was in that disguise, with sort of like that kind of goatee thing going on. And this was the cool thing as well, was Helena Bonham Carter was there. And for the first take, I didn't realise that it was Helena. I thought it was Emma Watson in makeup as Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix. But Helena Bonham Carter just proved how great of an actress she was, because not just the way that she looked like Bellatrix, but she sounded and acted perfectly Emma's way of portraying Hermione. And the sad thing is in the finished film they dub over Helena's voice, so you only get you get Emma Watson as Hermione trying to do a Bellatrix kind of voice. But I was fooled. Like, I did not realise that it wasn't Emma. So these people can act. You know, they're great. So anyway, come around to the second take, and I had spotted the AD, you know, walking around with a slightly aggravated voice yelling, because I'd probably taken his chair and he couldn't sit down. At this point, David Yates, the director, handed me a pair of cans. Now that is film speak for headphones, because the microphones, you're quite remote, like, because it's a fairly closed set, you're not looking at, like, the photographer picture that you're looking at here. There are basically four walls, or even if they're not all touching each other, so the director can't see the action, he can't hear the action for this particular set, so we had to wear headphones to really hear what was going on. So whilst they were getting ready to start shooting, we continued to chat about editing systems, because at this point I'd been learning to use Final Cut Pro, which is one of the sort of main non-linear editing systems. We talked about film resolutions, so at the time the film industry had just been moving from film and DV tape, digital videotape, to HD. This was kind of this was the time. This was 2009. Remember that, you know, HD was kind of becoming a thing, and you know, so I was talking to him about things like that, and he didn't know. And this is he didn't know what resolution. Like he said, "Are we shooting at like 2K?" So that's twice the resolution of HD. HD being the size of your average laptop screen in terms of pixel density. And he looked over to the person who was controlling basically the input and said, you know, "Oh, are we shooting at 2K, 4K?" And I believe it was 2K. And I thought, wow, how does the director not know these things? And he elaborated. He said when he first got into the industry, he was fascinated by the technical aspects of it all. But for him, it was all about the story. And then he proceeded to tell me, you know, he was interested in, you know, when a character arrives in that scene, what is their headspace? And I think this is why I really like his films and I like all the films, but his films, I think you really feel for the characters, particularly in the Deathly Hallows. I think the last one in particular, there's scenes where the characters aren't saying anything. Like when Harry takes his head out of the, you know, what's that little sink he puts his head in? Misha?
Something, the memories.
The memory sink. I'm calling it the memory sink, the pensieve. There you go, the pensieve. The memory sink is now a thing. Hashtag memory sink. Thank you, Lita. Although I think there's an extra E. Pensieve. I don't even know, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so like he takes his head out of the sink and he's just thinking to himself, "Oh my goodness, I've just seen that basically I've got to die," and that Snape is like, he knows about this and he's a good guy. Like, so like trying to get thinking as a director, this is what the character cares about. Sometimes you see, let's take Infinity War as a recent example. Star-Lord finds out that Xandar has just been decimated by Thanos, and you see his reaction is like kind of like a silent gasp, and then he moves on instantly and starts joking and intimidating Thor. And you might think, well, if a planet that you just saved a couple of movies ago just got decimated, you'd be like, what? Who survived? How's John C. Reilly's character, the Nova Corps, are they alive? What, you know, you might, as a character, be thinking that as opposed to just driving the plot forwards. And so that's what impressed me about David Yates, was his thought about characters. Let's change up the picture. That's been on the screen for a little bit. If you close that one away, please. Let's have a look at. We'll bring the camera up from it. We'll bring the camera up.
So 840.
Yes, I'll.
How much where have you got this?
I'm over here on this page at the moment. Oh, hello. Misha's brought me out my hot chocolate in one of her mugs with her design from Sarah on. It's very nice, very nice. Just uploaded my colouring of the dragon. Oh, let's have a look.
I can show you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Misha's going to bring it up. Sorry, I got all excited then for a minute. Yeah, so this is what impressed me about David Yates, is that as opposed to some directors that perhaps focus on action or the spectacle, which is why I do go to the cinema sometimes, he was thinking about the characters, what their motivation was in that scene, what they're coming out of. Oh, cool. Like it. Your dragon looks nice and happy. I like it.
Nice,
Good
Doodles.
job. Thank you for sharing. So,
Mine's green too.
interesting how you're all going, well, a lot of people are going with green at the moment. Now, since the shot that they were filming did have a visual effects element to it, well, a couple of visual effects elements actually, so the posters, of course, in Harry Potter world should move, they should be holding up the posters going, whatever. So those posters on the walls of the alcove where they were standing and having this little scene, good morning, what do you mean good morning, that little scene, they were green screens elements. And also, the invisibility cloak did not exist for that scene. Now, Misha, if you can switch now to the desktop and bring up the invisibility cloak. So for a lot of the scenes, they do use a practical invisibility cloak. So it should be, yeah, you can see it there, that one. Here it is. This is the...
I'm sorry. I did a Doodles. I just like green. And I was like, green's Halloweeny.
Did you use my Jim as inspiration too? Oh, did you use Jim?
He's
Jim.
the character in our book.
Oh, Jim. I've not... Maybe I should read these books at some point. The Dragon Spell, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Spell. Okay, so the invisibility cloak that they use in the film here has a green screen element on the inside so that they can erase it. However, erasing, as you can see, it's not a complete green. Sometimes they use an all green cape, like so on both sides it's just green. But you have to paint it out to start with and replace it with a background and characters because they were kind of all huddling together. In this particular shot, they decided to have no cape whatsoever, and Ron, or rather Rupert Grint in the scene, mimes throwing the cloak over Griphook and Harry. You should read it, it's good. Yeah, I wouldn't mind reading something about dragons, but I'm currently trying to read my Star Wars book. So yeah, they had the cloak. They have the cloak here on display in the museum, but for that particular scene, they did not use it. And then when they shoot the view from inside the cloak, when they're actually in Gringotts, when they're actually inside Gringotts, they do have the characters essentially on a green screen stage or inside the green screen cloak, so that they can, then paste it in to the background later. Kind of, they change methods depending on the scene that they're shooting. Now, because of this, the big slate, the clapperboard that they use, if they have a visual effects element into it, so they'll have the scene number and the take and the camera. So, for example, scene 172, a camera, and then if it's a visual effects shot, they add a V, so that they know that it needs to go to the visual effects houses. Essentially, every shot in the Deathly Hallows more or less had a visual effects element. Whether that was something small, like probably imperceivable, such as smoothing some makeup lines, or perhaps removing Voldemort's nose. You kind of forget that Ralph Fiennes actually has a nose and Voldemort doesn't, because it's just kind of a subtle thing. Or it could be making a sword appear out of a hat, that kind of stuff, things that you wouldn't notice, or something more obvious like a dragon. So, because of this, we started talking about tracking. Now this is the thing, when you have a camera moving through a scene, in editing, you have to make sure that your computer-generated element, or the element that you're putting on top of the green screen, matches both the speed and location and the angle of the shot, so that it basically looks like it belongs there. And so I was asking about it because, having just recently gone into editing the year before and replacing a photo in a similar fashion for one of my own student films, I kind of learned how to do that and kind of make it look like it's blending in. And so, we were talking about that. Now, at this time, Angie this is the producer's assistant, let me have a look at the call sheets for that day that she'd gone and rummaged from somebody. I'm just imagining that conversation now, actually. Like, I just need your call sheet. Why? Because I want it. There's this cancerous student on set and he wants to have a look at your call sheet. Give it me. Now, they were only shooting 1 or 2 scenes on that particular call sheet, so that shows you how quick they were or weren't getting through things. But I did see that there was a second unit that was shooting stunt doubles in a green screen studio. Now, I did get to see that later. And I also saw that the stunt team, they weren't on a stage shooting anything, but they were doing stunt rehearsals as a separate non-filming unit that day with Ralph Fiennes. Or some people say Rafe.
It's Ralph.
Well, I'm pretty sure he has an L, but I've heard people say Rafe.
It's like when people say J.K. Rowling, but it's Rowling.
Yeah, but I don't know why they say Rafe, because,
I don't
yeah,
know.
that just sounded weird. But anyway, so we saw a couple of takes happen, and, you know, performances would be largely the same from the actors. You know, they'd rehearsed it. They would have coats on, because it wasn't a heated space, but that's why people were huddled around in the corners outside of the set, but still inside the set square, if you know what I mean. The big space that we were in, people were huddled around space heaters reading books in the dark. So the actors would sort of have a coat on or a jacket. When they weren't actually doing a take, they'd sort of have a coat on to stay warm. But you got warm when you were standing on the set, believe you me. So we'd watched a few takes and chatted, and I'd been impressed, and we'd seen Warwick Davis come wandering over, and I didn't get to say hello, but, you know, it was really cool. And I saw Helena Bonham Carter, basically once they'd finished that part of the scene, she sat down on a golf cart to be driven back through the complex to her trailer. Now, basically, the outside of the studio complex has some exterior sets occasionally, like the London set, Hagrid's Hut, and Privet Drive, although for the first film that was a real location. I think it was in the south of England. And so they had basically a caravan park on the back lot where a lot of the actors would stay. So she was driven off, and she was using a MacBook. She had her own personal MacBook. So having just also started university, seeing all these Apple products, I was like, she's using a MacBook. So I wondered if maybe it was her script or she was checking her emails or something. Although the only Wi-Fi you could get was kind of in between studio sets, because when I came back later to work, I had to sort of hover in between sets to try and send my assignments in. That was fun. Anyway, so Andy called us over to sort of say, you know, let's go on to set. And so I wanted to say thanks, goodbye, but David Yates had stepped away to go talk to his AD, so I didn't get to say thanks, goodbye. I wasn't quite sure if I would come back. So, Misha, if you can close this image, please, and just bring back up to sort of let people know the wider picture 0007 of A Soul 4 on set. So I know we've seen this before, but this is basically the moment now when we step on, when we meet Daniel Radcliffe. So he's left on set because he's still needed, and the other actors are all sort of off getting a drink or something. And so, but just before this, they've done what we call a visual effects pass. So they basically take a grey, large, well, maybe the size of a volleyball on a stick, and it's grey, matte grey on one side and shiny silver chrome on the other. And they basically step through the shot, the scene where the camera is, so that they know where the lighting is, and they spin it around as they walk 2 passes with this ball, so that they know, how to recreate the digital lighting to match the real lighting. So, interestingly, here's a fun thing. On the floor where they had been acting was a mat, so that the microphones didn't pick up the rustling of their feet with the leaves on the litter, or just kicking the plasterboard walls. They look like brick, but I assure you they are not brick. Neapolitan wafers. Neapolitan wafers, like for ice cream. Just having some of my cookies and cream, you say? Mm-hmm. Cookies and cream and hot chocolate. Neapolitan wafers probably go quite nicely with this, actually. Thank you both. So yeah, on the floor, they'd been standing on a mat, and they'd been acting on this mat because Bellatrix sort of starts off near the top of the few steps and walks down, and so they'd had mats to not cause any noise. And on the mat were chalk marks and like bits of sticky tape, coloured for the different actors, so they knew where to stand at the beginning of the shot and at the end of the shot if they did move. So that take after take, they were in focus, and they were all, weren't getting in each other's way or blocking part of somebody's face with their shoulder and stuff like that. You eat them with cold cocoa. Interesting. Cold cocoa. Misha doesn't mind cold hot chocolate, but I won't mind hot. I'm a hot chocolate person. So at this point, I'd started to notice the detail of the set, like the litter and the leaves. And we were introduced, as you see right here, to Daniel Radcliffe. Now, he was in costume. We're not normally used to seeing Daniel Radcliffe in essentially what could be streetwear. A lot of the time he's been in his robes, or occasionally he has been, of course, in other costumes as well. But here he looks essentially like me. Like, we're both kind of wearing similar Derek all at costumes. Like we're all, about all three of us, were all wearing jeans and some sort of jacket blue hoodie thing. So I could have blended in. I could have taken off my coat. I could have blended in, right, guys? Right? Oh well, it didn't happen. But he actually had a bit of a cold that day, so I haven't thought about it since, but I don't think he sounds like he has a cold in the finished edit. I think they probably dubbed his dialogue like in post-production. It's called ADR, Additional Dialogue Recording, where they're going, Flaming Beast, what'd I miss?
You have to rewatch, mate.
You missed the part where Ron blows a raspberry on Grip Hook's head.
Oh dear.
I missed that too. I didn't see it. I didn't see that. That didn't happen. Also, Flaming Beast, have you got your colouring page? Alison, could you bring up the colouring page link in case you didn't see it earlier in the week? We're colouring in. So what you've missed essentially is the recap of last part 1 from the first video and us going around, and I've been next to the director talking with him. He's given me an insight about how he'd moved from being technical to being a story-orientated person. You can't colour though. That doesn't matter. Just have fun. Print out the page. It's a free page from Misha's colouring book, and she doesn't give them away free very often. Got 2 brats to eat. You've got to eat 2 brats? What brats are you eating? Or are these like bratwursts? That's 2 very different things. Also, thank you, Alison. So we go on set and we meet Daniel Radcliffe. Now, he's actually, if you've seen interviews with him, that was essentially how he was with us. He was kind of animated and eager to ask questions. I think because he's grown up as, I think it was 9 when he got cast in the part and 10 when the film came out. The food type, good. Okay, I wasn't sure there for a second. I think since he's always grown up in the spotlight, he's always been slightly, this is just me interpreting, slightly nervous because the camera is always on him, whether that's the film camera or the media and public spotlight. You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Heather. I saw Alison's name with the colour first. But as you can see, you know, in this particular shot, and this is how they do it in movies a lot, is they put Daniel on like a box or like on a curb or something, and the other actors aren't quite setting up straight. And so usually, particularly as they got older, the actors didn't make Daniel look too short, except for the scene in part 1 where they do the 7 Potters or the 7 Harrys scene, and you see like the twins shrink a lot because the twins would have been taller than Daniel Radcliffe, and they will have to be the same height because 7 identical Harrys. What did we chat about? Well, we chatted about our visit. He mentioned how generally all the props on set are just like telephone directories. So all the books, at least the ones that aren't opened, are telephone directories. So we get these in the post as the British public, probably like most people do. Big, thick wads, hundreds of pages thick, almost like Argos catalogues if you're familiar with Argos. But you know, then they just put leather bindings on the exteriors, and when I get to Dumbledore's office later, we actually saw that. Yes, so a lot of the books are just fake exteriors with... It's really funny to think that they could pull a book off a library shelf. And when I did, I may as well say it now. Misha, if you can close this picture, we're just going to jump forward a moment and bring up the picture of me sat in Dumbledore's desk. Here is me sat in Dumbledore's desk. That chair is not comfortable, let me tell you. I think I might have mentioned this on the first stream. That chair is completely, because it goes above your shoulders and it's not like a fabric or anything, it's wood. Like I think that chair was actually properly made out of wood. It was not comfortable to sit. They had a couple of cushions, but like hard cushions to sit on, but nothing for your back. So you couldn't slouch or sit comfortably. You had to sit up straight. But you can see the bookshelves to the left and right, and it's really dusty because they hadn't been shooting on the set for a while, and it'd been there since film 2. So the walls, as tall as they are, don't go all the way up to the ceiling because that's where the lighting rigs are. It was dusty. I mean, you can, if you look carefully, you can see that the flash has caught floating dust particles in some of the shadows. You can kind of see that dust. You can see where I've, well, not just me, I think. This is the Sarah Jessica Parker, like the actress from Hocus Pocus and other films, had been touring the set that day as well. I was like, I thought I was the only guest here. Go figure. Celebrities. So I was on the same level as Sarah Jessica Parker that day. So, you know, that's something. So, all these books, I was invited to pull one off the bookshelf. Let me just flip the page so I can get the title right. That book that I picked off the bookshelf, which is on the left-hand bookshelf, which isn't pictured, halfway up the staircase that leads to the upper level, had a title of Muggles and Law. I mean, just think about that book title right there. You don't ever see the name of the book. You see it in shots, like in a wide shot, but you can't tell that there's actually a label on it to start with. But somebody has thought of the name Muggles and Law. So that book title to me is like some magical person thought, right, so what is legal and not legal to do with Muggles? Kind of like Mr. Weasley's Muggle Protection Acts and everything that he does to investigate Muggles. He's probably read that book, actually, Muggles and Law. Just think about it. That's a whole other book that J.K. Rowling could get into. Did you see that story about Daniel Radcliffe wearing the same outfit every day to throw off the paparazzi? The same outfit every day? Like a what? Like when he was outside location filming? Please elaborate later. Also, I think it's time for another trivia question. Students, one's a bit of a doozy. New students need to learn the secrets of the castle. But how many staircases does Hogwarts actually have? How many staircases does Hogwarts have? Give you a minute to think about that one while I have a sip of my hot chocolate. Also, I really like this piece of music. This is Lily's Theme by Alexander Desplat from the Deathly Hallows. So anyway, there's ruining a bit of the fun. But it's really fun to think that the books aren't just like old textbooks or encyclopedias that they cannibalized. They still made them. They still had to get the old things. Isn't it over 100? What's over 100, sorry?
Staircase.
Oh, staircase. You're not wrong. Oh, well, but that's not the correct answer. I think he wore the same jacket and pants and you really couldn't see his shirt. The paparazzi couldn't use the pics they got because it looked like they were all from the same day. Clever. But then, what happens when you've been wearing them for so long and you have to put them in the wash? I mean, even if you've got like a tumble dryer, I assume he had probably more than one set with these clothes. Interesting. Okay, so Daniel Radcliffe was telling me about, it's the fun, you go up to parts of the set and you see these things. Like Doodles, the staircases change all the time, so how can you count them? They change, but I think we're talking about stairways rather than the individual levels that move left and right. So, you can wear jeans for like 3 days. Yes, you can. But I mean, like after a week, they probably need washing. So, we go on set and we're talking, and he's got this kind of gruff voice, but he's still talking like quite a lot, and somebody brings him he's got like an assistant that's been with him from film one. He's like his right-hand man, his personal assistant. If you go into the credits of the film, a lot of the big names of any film will have an assistant. People who will bring you your drinks and your sandwiches and get you your notes and people. Because as the main actor, you're very busy. You don't have time to go to the canteen yourself and wait in line to get your lunch, eat, and come back because they need you to start shooting. But I found him quite amicable. The crew was setting up for another setup, and I was talking with one of the ADs actually about their utility belts. Makes it sound like Batman's utility belt. But essentially, a lot of the people on set will wear like a big belt with electricians tape different colours for the different actors for their marks upon the floor, like on the map we described earlier. And, scissors, or like the clapperboard guy will have basically like a big Sharpie pen or like a whiteboard pen. Because essentially that's what the clapperboard is. It's like a whiteboard, but with just some tape and lines on it to give you the name of the film. I don't think I had put a picture on there of the clapperboard. But Misha, if you could bring photos, the app. I'm going to show you what the clapperboard... They have a clapperboard that's like handheld. If you go to the very top... Oh, you can see a picture of the rats just kind of dozing off there. Yeah, you finished colouring! Please put it in Discord so we can see. So yeah, if you can bring up the Harry Potter album. I didn't think of this one. But essentially, when you have wide exterior shots, a small handheld clapperboard may not be able to reach the camera because it's up on a crane. It is that one. So they have this huge one, which is actually broken. If you look carefully, you can see that the sort of plastic is kind of broken. Essentially, they put tape and numbers that they've grabbed from shops and even some just marker pens. So you can see that you have here the code name of the film was Extra Time. The reason that they have code names is when they send the footage, the film tape basically, to the processing laboratory, which is offsite, a different company, you don't know what the film is, and so people can't be like, oh look, we've got footage from Harry Potter in, or from Star Wars. They all have code names. Solo, a Star Wars story, was actually called Red Cup, for example. And the Deathly Hallows was called Extra Time. And then you have the name of the director of photography sometimes, or the camera operator, Eduardo Serra in this case. The scene number 305, the slate number. So that's basically how that goes up once every time you change locations or setups. And then the take number, in that case it's show number 1. And then the date and the description. So that one was for the 22nd of January 2010. And it was a night-time shoot or scene, but it was an interior scene. Yeah, it really was called Red Cup. They didn't release the name of the film. My digital media teacher had one. A whiteboard clapper. Well, Misha, if you can dismiss that photo but keep the app up, you can show the picture of me on set holding the clapperboard, 2 pictures to the next row down. Yeah, let's go with that one. So here's me holding the actual clapperboard that was being used, but I wasn't allowed to use the clapperboard. That's a good one. I wasn't allowed to take pictures on set, so I had somebody who was actually called the Stig take these pictures for me when nobody was around. I was just like, hey, can you take pictures for me? But this is when I was actually working on the production. This wasn't on the day of my visit, my first visit. So, yeah, it's all very unionized. And you can actually see in that photo that the set is raised up about 6-8 inches maybe. And it's basically big sheets of essentially MDF and plasterboard and things. So when you walk on it, because think of it like a floorboard, like it's not completely, there aren't beams everywhere, normally so many feet. So you walk on sets like this and it kind of can bow, like this particular set. I remember walking across and depending on where your feet were, the set would slightly bow under your weight because it wasn't a solid floor. Doodle says that's a funny name, especially if you think of the typical red cup, which is a solo cup. See, this is the thing, I've never really had a red cup in America. I guess I'm just not that big, prone to American culture, I guess. I mean, I'm aware of them. Interesting that if you just swipe to the next photo, this is actually for another stream, but if you go on to the next photo, I may as well show you. Here's me looking at the end of a take. So sometimes if a clapperboard can't get to the camera at the beginning of the take, but the camera's perhaps in a useful position at the end of a take, they'll do a clapperboard at the end of the take. And why do they do a clapperboard? It's to synchronize the picture and sound because the microphones and the cameras record sound separately. Also, I never gave you the answer to the staircase question. It was 142 staircases. The position that I'm looking at between me and the set actually did have a staircase constructed out of scaffolding and planks of wood that went up onto the second level at one point, which was constructed and deconstructed over the course of 2 days. And I was counting down, you can see that there's a trolley to the right there, and there was like cases with lenses with £14,000 lenses that I was counting that I nearly dropped because the staircase wasn't completely solid. And I was like, oh, it's more money than I make in a year and I might never work in film again. But fortunately, I caught myself on the handrail coming down the set. So that's the thing. Anyway, so I was talking, in fact, you can actually see, Misha, if you zoom in, you can see the Ron Polyjuice actor, because this particular scene is in the Ministry of Magic. You can see a guy who's just slouching next to some of the lights with jeans on, but then the actor returning from the run down the corridor away to the lift when the Dementors are chasing. That's the Ron guy, the Polyjuice guy, with his wand coming back to start another take, running down the corridor. Although the whole scene starts with them coming in, being interrogated by Imelda Staunton's Professor Umbridge, then grabbing the necklace and running away. So that's proof that it really was the Ministry of Magic, because that guy's holding a wand. I didn't just make this up. You can all believe me now. Excuse me. Okay, so let's start bringing this to a close. So I'd been talking with this assistant director about my previous weekend. I had actually done some assisting directing. So I had a couple of friends who'd been doing a music video in London, and they'd asked me and my filmmaking partner John to go down and to be their assistant directors for them who were directing it. So I was like, yeah, I just did some assistant directing because I was new at film. Like, I've been doing film stuff for a decade now, so I feel the experience. But at the time, like, when you've done something new for the first time, you're just like, yeah, I can be like you. I did some of this. I can do this. Yay, sort of thing. So I kind of felt like that talking to assistant director, although he was being paid money and I just had expenses that didn't even cover my travel. Music video. Oh yeah, it was some like London rapper rapping a song with zombies and stuff. I was only there for the one day as opposed to 2 days. But that was experience. This is what you do for friends when you're a student. You take jobs that don't pay very well, or at all sometimes. Now at this point we had the on-set photographer come on, and so the pictures that you've seen of me and Matt and Daniel and the rest of us, that was taken by the official on-set photographer, which is why they look a lot nicer. Now this photographer, we weren't told that we were going to get any official photographs whatsoever. We were basically told that we were going to get no photos, we couldn't take cameras, all the rest of it. So then suddenly to have the photographer being all like, hey Daniel, pose, and the photographer had a monopod, so that's a tripod with just one leg. Oh, Iron Maiden, I don't know. I mean, you can look it up. I think it was called Only the Fam, as in like family, but F-A-M. Only the Fam. That was the name of the song, at least anyway. Can't remember the artist's name. It was 10 years ago, well, 9 years ago. But the camera for the photographer was in basically almost like a suitcase, so that all that was coming up was the lens, and there was a button that pressed the button, so it was all encased, so you couldn't hear it click or anything. Your sister has a monopod. I do not have a monopod. But this photographer saw like, hey, pose and put your arms around each other, so I was like, he didn't say put your arms around each other, but I was like, I'm going to put my arm around Daniel Radcliffe. And he put his arm around mine. Hello, awesomely nerdy. I haven't seen you streaming for ages. Like, I feel like if you have been streaming, it hasn't been notifying me. So apologies if I haven't seen your stream. I've also been very busy though. Giant lenses, like one of those really long L lenses, they're like $1,000. They're like super expensive. But anyway, so we had photos taken, and they didn't tell us like if it was just for remembering for the production company, like to document things, or if it was for us. They didn't tell us, but eventually we did get the photos. I'll tell you that now. Then we moved on to the creature department. Now, Doodles, you've been waiting for this, so to wrap up, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures from the creature department. You've been ill and having to work. Oh, like seasonal flu, cold stuff. Misha, if you can dismiss that app, please. She wants to be a sports photographer. Yes, you'll need a couple of those long lenses. Okay, so we went to the creature department, and the creature department was so fun. Because they've been working for so long, they had accumulated photos, props rather, of the creatures. The first thing we saw going in off the set was Buckbeak. Misha, if you could bring up one of the 2 pictures of Buckbeak off the bottom row there. Now the Buckbeak that we saw, I think they constructed 2 or 3 Buckbeaks. The one that we saw was actually a standing Buckbeak. This picture is actually from the studio tour that you can go to today of a sitting down Buckbeak. How are things with you? Things are going good. I had a pretty awful fortnight, to be honest, in terms of my actual paid office work, getting into some editing. And we're talking Harry Potter. How can we not like that? Also, if you want to relax and kick out, we are giving away a colouring page from Misha's colouring book to go along with this Harry Potter stream. Was that colour? Was it colour? It was colour, right? Colour along. You could keep that page, print it out, or colour it in digitally, and we're all sharing them on our Discord later. In fact, some have already... Misha, can you show me alpacas and the others? So here's Buckbeak. They made 3 Buckbeaks, and it was really funny because there was a bunch of cables coming out of his backside, but it was really cool seeing the detail on Buckbeak because every single feather is individually woven on. Whoa, alpaca.
Check out the background from Google.
Background, I like the fact that you gave the dragon like a kitten nose and whiskers, and like a lime green. And Rachel's purple and green. I like the shading that you have done. Shading is what brings it to life. Well done. I have not coloured in. So we saw Buckbeak, and I wanted to. I think I touched him. I don't know if I was supposed to touch him, but I touched him. I think I touched him. Well, it's feathers, like artificial. And here's another angle, but again, the Buckbeak that we had was standing up, and that was just in like the doorway going into the creature department. Let's have a look here. Now the thing is that we go in and we see all sorts. So Misha, if you can dismiss that. They were making loads, because the prosthetics department was just next by as well. They were making loads of goblin masks. So here is just some of the goblin masks they made. You can also see the mandrakes.
Oh. Didn't see us in the reflection of the mirror.
So that is Misha standing next to Angelique, who was the wife of Not Ben Ben. Not Ben Ben in that picture. Corpse paint? Corpse paint? Trick-or-treating and needs a cat nose and whisker. Ah, I see what you did there, Alpaca. I see what you did. So they were making all these masks. And the thing is, these masks, particularly for the ones who are speaking roles, only really last a day's worth of shooting. You can't really get more than a day's worth of shooting out of them. And there's so many pieces that when you take it off, it basically destroys the mask. So for every day's worth of shooting...
I don't know why there's a dead chicken hanging upside down.
Oh, they've got all sorts going on, don't they? But you can see that sometimes it's just like ears or hair. That is nearly headless Nick just creeping into the edge there.
Is that the cat?
That is Mrs. Norris.
This is Norris. These are the mandrakes?
The mandrakes. Now the thing is that they had to... Misha is cute. Why married her? One of the reasons anyway. They were making these and they had to make them identical from day to day. And I remember one of the artists... they were spray painting and they were all at desks with all this hair and like yak hair and goat's hair and all the rest of it. And they were threading it through the eyebrows and the forehead and all the rest of it and painting it so that all the blemishes and the moles and the colours and the skin tones were identical from day to day. And I remember them saying to me, people aren't going to notice, but we do it anyway, basically sort of thing. Game of Mama, hello! I love this so much, would be my dream bucket list. Well, if you were to come to England, I highly recommend going to the studio. I think it's about like £30, but we were there for 6 hours. We had an absolute blast the whole day. We made it worth the money, and they've added to it since actually.
Silas, love you.
Gotta go. Well, I'm wrapping up in a minute soon, so you've been able to see most of it. So glad you came. Hope you're doing well. So here you can see a closer up of one of the goblin masks and the shrunken heads. Fun fact, was not in the film. Was not in the book. Time for one last trivia question. One last trivia question. Name every ingredient contained in a polyjuice potion. There are 7. You just plug me in there, dear. Battery just running low there. Name all 7 polyjuice potion ingredients. So there are 7. But essentially, we're going around and we're seeing them making all these goblin masks because they were about to shoot the Gringotts bank interior where the dragon escapes. And I remember... having read the book, it was a very exciting sequence, so I was delighted to know that it was coming to screen. And I sort of pictured in my mind's eyes that the scene would actually start with like the tellers quietly working away, stamping things, moving books and coins around, and kind of almost like a T-Rex sort of thing. You'd see things start to shake and quiver and rumble, and then the dragon would just come up through the bottom. In the finished film, it was basically the dragon comes up through the bottom. You don't see any of that preamble stuff, so I would have made a better version. But there you go, my imagination's all over the place. They also had a picture of Dan, as in Daniel Grint, Dan Ratcliffe, with a disfiguration charm. So I have a picture of that. I think I have at least a picture. I thought, I haven't brought it out. I must not have put it on the desktop, I'm sorry. But remember, Hermione at the end of part 1 casts a disfiguration charm on Harry when the Snatchers snatch them. And so, he looks kind of like Harry, but not like Harry. Further in. There, stop. Up 1 over 2. Yeah, sorry, I thought I'd got that out. So they had pictures of Daniel. So these are the sculpts, but they had a picture when they'd been testing this makeup. Misha, my friend's died, so you may have to sort of read any comments out to me.
Leeches, fluxweed, something grass.
Something grass could be.
And Duddles and Rachel telling Awesome and Dirty off. No googling.
No googling.
Gamer Mama, hair from the person you want to be. Lita, bicorn horn.
A bike horn. Or a bike. I thought you said like a bike horn.
Bicorn horn.
This is the funny thing. The picture that the makeup artist had in their tent, which I don't have a picture of, sorry, had Rupert Grint biting. Sorry, it was Daniel biting Rupert's arm. Remember when he gets spliced when they basically teleport, and the guy from the ministry sort of catches them as they apparate. So they designed the makeup for his arm to look like he'd basically split his arm-ish, like the flesh on his skin. But it was essentially just, prosthetic makeup. And so Daniel's there biting onto Rupert's shoulder, and Rupert's kind of laughing out loud as he's tugging on this flesh with his teeth that's kind of peeling off, almost like you would peel off at the top layer of an onion sort of thing. So that was funny. We also saw photos of Michael Gambon's face. So some of the sculpts you can see, like in the background, are just focusing on somebody's nose. You can actually also see what looks to be like the original sculpt for Voldemort from the Philosopher's Stone, which you can see has more of like a vicious open venom mouth than it does in the final film, which is much more just an ordinary human. Interesting design that was not used in the film. Now, Matt had been able to identify Bindi, the short guy who was playing the tall goblin. He'd been able to spot Bindi's goblin mask. But other things that were going on, where there were frogs.
Coral's head from the back with Voldemort on it?
Yes. But you can see that it's a much more open, gnarlier mouth than they actually went with in the film when they did the CG. But we had Baby Voldemort. Now I have a video for you on this one, so Misha, this is on the desktop.
That was gross.
So in both Deathly Hallows, but also the Goblet of Fire, they have this kind of Voldemort going on. Just watch this. So this is all. This is an animatronic. You can see his head moves and his chest breathes.
Yeah.
And in the Goblet of Fire, it's carried by David Tennant. No, not David Tennant. Wormtail. And then in Deathly Hallows, this guy is kind of like on the bench floor, on the floor near the bench where Dumbledore and Harry have that King's Cross kind of little sequence. But also in the Creature Department, they had the Basilisk head. So Misha, if you could bring up the Basilisk head. Now this thing, in the Chamber of Secrets, this snake looked huge, I guess, compared to a 12-year-old version of Harry.
Oh. Play it again.
Play it again, Sam. Watch carefully. So his breathing starts, his back, his arms all articulate, and he just looks pained. So there you go. And that probably was a lot of money, because you can see all the circuit boards there, just that they had to custom build. You can't just go out to Argos and just buy a circuit board to move a puppet around. So this is one of the things. I realised that also now being an adult, that the Basilisk looked bigger compared to a child actor, but it was still impressive. Now I think here this Basilisk has the teeth, all of its teeth in, as opposed to the one that falls out and goes into Harry's arm and subsequently is used to destroy the book.
John thought it was cool.
It is cool. It was very cool. They did use this animatronic on the set for close-ups with Harry, and then a CG for the wider one.
These are the
Thestrals.
Thestrals.
Yeah, models of the Thestrals, which were all CG. But they also had not one, but two Fawkes. Misha, you could bring up Fawkes. So here's one of the Fawkes. Very expensive to make. Again, this was articulated on the set of the Chamber of Secrets, but I think for the Order of the Phoenix was just CG. And was CG in the Chamber of Secrets for the wider shots. Flying, of course. Although, in the film, go back down, dear. In the film, it's covered with ashes, so you can't actually see the detailing that somebody designed and made, and it looks really pretty. And you don't see that, so I'll let you enjoy that sort of close-up detail for a moment. So we're seeing the Fawkes, the Basilisk head. Although when I went to the set, it was missing its tooth. But in the museum, they put the tooth back in. We also saw the Mandrakes, and here's something else. We saw many Hagrid faces. Partially because a lot of the stunt work that was being filmed and that I subsequently saw. No, but Hagrid's face was often put over a large stunt performer who played rugby for the English rugby team, who I actually met later in life working at Michelin at an event. So go figure that. And he wore this big pack on his back that would articulate his face. And so there were many of these Hagrid faces laying around that were wirelessly controlled. The Deathly Hallows has a scene where one of the teachers is killed at the beginning. It's hovering above the table. She teaches Muggle history or something, was it? Or just Muggle something. Believes that Muggles should be able to marry non-Muggles. We took a picture of the set, and I think you can see the... You can always bring it up if you like.
See if I can find it.
Now this is the thing. When we walked into this workshop, it was like a big sort of workshop, bright light. This lady was basically at a 45-degree angle with her head and shoulders basically resting against this kind of workspace tabletop. And you're very down to the above the train, left. That one. Okay, so you can see there if you zoom in, Nagini and the costume. This was the set that this was used for, although I didn't see the set at the time. I did see it on my subsequent visit though. So that was a completely wireless, remote-controlled prop. There was an actress for the close-ups, but because the scene took a week, it was actually a much longer scene originally that was shot with more dialogue. And I think you can kind of notice the cut. If you go back and watch the film, you kind of notice that basically Snape arrives, Voldemort says, "We missed you, we saved you a seat," and then he sits down, and then it cuts to a shot of other people when they suddenly talk about, "It will happen tonight," or "tomorrow night," or whatever. And I think that scene was originally longer, because I remember one of the assistant editors talking about like they were trying to trim it down. And so, because it took so long to film, they built this complete animatronic wireless version of this teacher. And we walk into the workshop and see this very lifelike 45 degrees, tilted lady. And I was like, well, that's because she'd been abused, she'd been tortured, she did not look good. So it was a little off-putting, I have to say. Any comments that I missed, by the way?
No,
Muggle Studies, okay, yeah, so I was close. So we saw this lady from the opening chapter of the Deathly Hallows, and she did look very convincing. There was actually a Dumbledore body. So you know that you see the grave, Voldemort breaks in at the end of part 1, and you see... So that wasn't Michael Gambon, that was... They actually, instead of just having him lie down and make him look make-upped, they did the whole thing to actually make him look dead by building a prop version of him. And I noticed that he was actually quite small and short too. I guess I'd always envisaged him... Now I know that Richard Harris was, I think, taller than Michael Gambon, but nevertheless I realised that I was taller than Michael Gambon. There was, let's see, a large workshop where a sculptor had been working on a large statue. So if you close this app, please. On the desktop, I have a picture of the... Oh, yeah, let's show the spider. Let's show the spider. This wasn't what I was going to show, but let's show the spider. They had both versions of Aragog. So the Chamber of Secrets, he looked, I thought, 3 times the size of this. But that was just the way that they'd shot it. And that's the thing, you can make things look bigger and smaller with different lenses and like how close you get to things. So there's the Aragog that they used, and it was fully articulated on set. You can see like his pincers, 2 pincers at the end of each toe, or 2 toes at the end of each foot almost. So not just his mouth, but if you go to one of his legs, you can see like the claws at the end, and you can just about glimpse those on film. So they were both the living Aragog and the dead upside down Aragog, which when spiders die, they kind of like that hollow, translucent look to him. So they'd resculpted him to look different, older and transparent, basically more transparent for the dead scene in Half-Blood Prince. Was anybody else relieved about the Half-Blood Prince seeing Aragog dead? I was. I mean, Hagrid was a bit upset, but, it's a big spider. Okay, I'm going to reveal to you the ingredients from the Polyjuice potion, because I don't think it was a tough one. It was a doozy. The question was, what were all 7 ingredients? Excuse me. They were lacewing flies. Not sure if anybody said that. Did anybody say that?
I don't think so.
Lacewing flies, leeches, powdered bicorn horn. So well done, you got the bicorn. Not grass. You did mention grass. Fluxweed, shredded boomslang skin, and a bit of the person you want to turn into. So well done to those of you who got some of those. Well done. Thank you for participating. Now we also had the good and bad serious.
But also, she's a bit sad about Aragog dying. Even though she doesn't like spiders, Aragog was special to Hagrid.
It's true, but you know, Aragog tried to have like basically Harry and Ron eaten. So way to go, Aragog. Would have ruined the whole plot of the films. And also the dragons. I have a picture of the Chinese horntail, I believe. Yeah. So there's a mock-up of the Thestral without all the wings and the baby Thestral, but also you can see there above the China. So on the set, they did in the scene when Harry notices that Hagrid's combed his hair and, you know, all the rest of it, and Hagrid takes him to see the horntail. I think in the finished film, they replace it all with a CG dragon because it's a bit more mobile. But they actually built a full dragon, although you can only see the neck and head here, and it breathed fire. They actually built a flame-spitting dragon. It was pretty cool. And it's spiky. And I'm sure it would have been very expensive and difficult to make a dragon that's, you know, flame retardant as well. And at this time, I noticed the basilisk skeleton. Because remember in the Deathly Hallows, they have the skeleton, the basilisk, as well as the, you know, the fact because it's been dead for a few years. There were mermaids, you know, those creatures from the deep. I don't think I saw Norbert, to be honest. And you know, there were other creatures. But at this point, I noticed that we were competing with Sarah Jessica Parker's family tour. So I was like, fine, you know, whatever. But it was so cool. Very fun part of the tour, seeing, you know, these tangible, magical elements. And for now, guys, Misha, if you take it back to the camera.
What is this one?
Oh, we're not showing that one? Oh, here's a close-up of the mandrake next to... You know, and the mandrake, actually, we have a video, but I haven't brought it up.
Maybe we can do that next time.
The mandrake actually pops out of the pot, and behind it you can see the animatronic Hedwig. Hedwig is a real owl that changes throughout the films, different owls, but sometimes they, you know, for safety reasons and for animal safety reasons, use an animatronic owl to react.
Okay.
Did I get all the creatures up?
Yeah.
Great. If you can bring it back to the camera for us. So that was the creature shop. And guys, for now, that is mischief managed. We will pick up, believe you me, there are plenty of pages still to get through. So we are, let's see, we had 1, 2, so we're about just over halfway through my set visit. We're basically now at the part where I go for lunch. 2 streams in, we got to lunch. Thank you very much for participating. I hope you've enjoyed Misha's colouring in page from Sarah, our artist. If you want to know about Sarah, do command Sarah. You can see her details. She's very generously done
Well, Shanna has a question.
loads of pictures. Yes, please ask questions. Very happy to answer them. Now I have to wait.
Thank you very much.
Have a
That was
sip.
cool. That was like, thank you, Ben. That was awesome.
Well, we will be having another stream, of course, because I've got the rest of the studio to get around, let alone the week when I come to work on it. We're going to be having these for a little while to come.
What was your favorite part of the job?
Of actually working on the job was the fact that the best feeling was having my security pass, driving up to the security lodge, waving my security badge, and being let through. That feeling never got old. Trust me, I felt like $1 million. I really did not underestimate how lucky I was to be there, because I thought there are literally millions of people who would probably actually hurt me or kill me for this security pass, so they could be there, like proper obsessed Potterheads, not just like nice Potterheads, like obsessed Potterheads would have killed me to get that security lodge pass. It was amazing. So that was my favourite part about it, was being there and knowing that I could pretty much wander around if I wanted to, and I did eventually towards the end wander around a bit, places where I wasn't invited to go, but like you weren't forbidden to go there, sort of thing. I didn't like wander into any like vaults or anything.
Alpaca says in Denmark it's tradition to have special graduation hat for graduation. I ordered mine on the back of it. It says Mr. Managing glow in the dark embroidered thread.
Mischief match. That is fun. I had just an ordinary one. I had to pay for. I
Alicia
thought,
would have killed you.
see, that's just I'm not quite sure what that says about you. You'd kill me, little me. Oops, moving my microphone around there.
Well,
But in terms of actually doing, I think I really liked playing around with the footage in the edit bay. Although it was great being on the set and seeing the actors work, it was quite slow in between takes. You could wait around forever, and I knew the story, I knew what the context of the scene was, and a lot of people kind of lost that. Like Imelda Staunton would mispronounce people's names, and I'm like, oh, that's not how you say that. They actually corrected her and whatever. But the edit bay, you're working just you on your own. And so on the set, there's loads of people you got to wait for everybody to get in place and all the rest of it. Do you still have the pass? No, they took it off of me on my last day, and I knew that they probably would. So I took a picture of it before I left so that I could remember it. And it basically said contractor, and my name, and the office that I was attached to. Yes, please don't kill me. Thank you, Chandler. I'd rather not die, because Misha would then have to go get another job.
Get
Another job. So thank you guys for watching. There will be a part 3. Be sure to check out everybody's pictures on Discord of the Dragons. Thank you for colouring them in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.
Right then, guys. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, Misha's, if you didn't hear that, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great weekend. Be awesome to each other. And remember, Harry lives. Why? Because he does live. He does.
Bye.
Bye.